Test your might.
Brutal Paws of Fury. Released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, courtesy of GameTech and Cybersoft, and apparently Eurocom also had a hand in the Super Nintendo conversion. And how apropos a title to describe the experience that awaits you with this game. Brutal began life as a Sega CD title before it eventually got ported over to a bunch of platforms, including the Mega Drive, various Amiga systems, and even the 32X, which got an enhanced version of Brutal. The Sega fucking 32X, because that's what that poor bastard needed to move units, is another lousy 2D fighter. Jesus fuck. Yeah, okay, so first off, some positives. The game looks pretty enough, I guess. The various arenas you fight in are beautifully rendered, vibrant colors, some moody settings. Nothing really hardware pushing or anything like that, but still somewhat nice, wonderful looking stuff, I guess. The characters themselves are all well drawn, cartoonish caricatures that animate. Well, okay, the animation's a little choppy, but it's manageable for the most part, and the player select screen has the fighter silhouettes doing their katas in the distance, and those animate smoothly enough, I suppose. Sound fares less so. The sound effects are so-so. There's a minimal amount of vocal bits, some grunts and key eyes mostly. Music is befitting of the setting if nothing else, but otherwise is there to fill the audible void of your ears or something. And that's all the nice things I have to say about Brutal Paws of Fury, because the rest is downhill from here. So Brutal gives you 7 playable fighters to choose from, along with one final boss who can be accessed via a code that you can attain by beating the single player mode on Black Belt difficulty, or look up game facts. I don't care. The Sega CD version had a couple more fighters, and the 32X version had 2 more on top of that. Not that it really matters. You have 2 modes of play: your obligatory one-player story mode where you pick a character, fight all the other characters, and eventually challenge the final boss, the Dalai Lama. Cheap as fuck SNK boss syndrome type stuff. Fuck this game. And your obligatory 2-player versus mode, the no-frills head-to-head mode as it's called. The one-player mode is unique because you get to give your character a name, and that name is what you're identified as, not Kung Fu Bunny or Foxy Roxy. Those names pop up on the versus screen, but it's you versus whoever's on the other end. And there's also an option to enter a very long, overly complicated password, which ties into this character progression system of sorts that is the crux of this whole single-player campaign, or whatever you want to call it. So whenever you start a new game and start a new character, you have no special moves, and every couple opponents you beat, the game will teach you a new special move by showing you the command input, and then you have to repeat the action, and if you don't succeed, then you'll just have to try again until you do. The password keeps track of all the moves you've learned, so you can start from scratch or input a password to continue your character in progress, though regardless of where you get the password, you'll always start off in the first scene, and you got to make your way up to the Dalai Lama or whatever the case may be. So the first move that the game teaches you is your standard taunt that everybody has. You'll press A and B at the same time to taunt, or X and Y to taunt, and this is the move that the game teaches you, the very first special move that the game teaches you. Except I could already taunt long before I'm supposed to in my very first fight in this single player mode. I ended up picking the Ray Rat character, who has a very glitchy knockout punch that's theoretically very easy to perform. You hold down the X, Y, and one of the triggers for a bit, and then when you let go, he'll execute said move, which I'm not supposed to learn until 5 fights in, and yet I'm able to do it in the very first fight, So yeah, that's a little inconsistent, and the moves themselves have weird inconsistent properties. The aforementioned KO punch will sometimes do a bit of damage, other times it will stun a foe, and on rare occasions it will insta-kill somebody. And then there are moves with weird hitboxes, like a kick that hits you from the other side of the screen. What the fuck? Blocking apparently exists, but won't work against most special or heavy attacks. Taunting will actually let you regenerate a little health, which is actually what it's supposed to do, but it will also protect you from certain attacks and leave you invulnerable for a bit, and yet that's also somewhat inconsistent and The controls for this thing is also kind of weird because it's almost worthless. It's a standard 6-button setup that curiously doesn't allow for button customization, or at least the option isn't readily obvious from the get-go. You have special moves that are done with some awkward commands, hold this button and then press these other buttons, and you're not sure if it worked or not because it's laggy, there's a delay of sorts between input and execution. There are your typical quarter circle commands, but these are also foobarred because typically, you've thrown a couple Hadoukens in your life, you know how that works. Quarter circle plus punch and one instantaneous motion, that sort of thing. That's not how it works in Brutal. In Brutal, you do your quarter circle motion where it's supposed to go, then you wait a bit, and then you press the button to execute and it'll execute. Sometimes, but not always. And look, I don't want to crap on the idea of learning special moves on the go because that's not an inherently bad idea. Art of Fighting had a similar concept where you played bonus games to try and learn new stuff and such. It's just that the controls are so bad. They're so bad. It's unbelievably awful. And at the end of the day, trying to do special moves is useless and you're just mashing buttons, just getting your regular shit out, which is what the game expects you to do at first because you're not supposed to start with any special moves, except you already have a couple and the AI doesn't know whether it's going to be a pushover or a stone wall called the Eagles. I don't mind a hard-ass AI if I have functional controls to counter, and I don't even have that. I'm banging on the table too many times. It's just, Jesus fuck. Overall, fuck it. Brutal sucks, everybody. It just sucks. Go play Turtles Tournament Fighters if you want animal-on-animal action on the Super Nintendo, for fuck's sake. I'm done. Slap the poop ribbon on there and call it a video. I'm fucking done. I'm going to bed. Good night. I'm trying to keep my voice down so I don't wake the dog and she'll cause a ruckus afterwards and nobody will fucking sleep, so whatever. Bye.